The word actor brings to mind stardom, seduction, fame, and fortune. Also, living on pennies, dreams, and on other people's couches. The craft is a mindset, one that can change the way you see yourself and the world around you. There's no better way to discover yourself than to first try on somebody else. It isn't Hollywood. It's not Broadway. This is Riddlesbrood. So welcome to the Acting Out podcast. And now your host, Clyde P. Riddlesbrood.
Welcome to the Acting Out podcast with Riddlesbrood Touring Theater Company. I am Clyde P. Riddlesbrood and your host today. And today we actually have a very interesting topic that we're going to talk about. Basically, entertainment, sales, and show business and how they all interrelate and work together. This is the side of show business that not everybody always knows about nor hears about, but it's very important, especially if you're a brand new entertainment-related entrepreneur out there looking to do something interesting, looking to get some gigs, looking to get some work. So we're going to take a few minutes and talk about all the different variations of how sales works in the industry, and we actually have a fabulous guest I have today, Todd Parker. He's actually one of our actors, and he's also sales. I forget the name we were going to come up with. I'll let you decide what your title is again. I forget.
We had actually said Director of Client Relations.
That's right. That sounds familiar now. Well, you know what, Todd? Why don't you take a few minutes and tell us a little bit about what you do to help us get gigs and, how it's different than, maybe some other kind of sales things that people do, in the industry.
My background is in sales. I've been in sales for about 25 years, primarily in the technology sector. But I actually owned and operated my own film and television business for about 5 years in the early 2000s. So I have a lot of experience with networking and promoting media relations and PR. So when I joined Riddlesbrood, I've been with Riddlesbrood now for almost a year, maybe a little more than half a year. I said to Brian, hey, this would be a really great opportunity to sort of increase the footprint of Riddlesbrood and really kick it up a notch. And I would love to be able to spearhead that initiative.
Well, that's amazing, and that's actually why we're so happy and grateful to have you on board. As you know, we've been around for like 25 years, and most of the sales that we've done over the years has been more of like a grassroots, kind of like a, pull yourself up by your bootstrap method, literally going restaurant to restaurant, knocking on doors, making cold calls, that kind of thing. And that has done very well for us. However, we have noticed that, that has its limitations. And that's why we were excited and happy to hear about, your particular way of going about sales. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the company that you had and the different things that you did in the entertainment industry? Because it sounds like you were really involved in a lot of fun, cool things.
Yeah, I'll give you the brief overview. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree in English writing, and I always enjoyed writing as a hobby. I had written a short film. I always have loved the murder mystery genre. So I had written a short film back in about 2002, 2003 called Claustrophobia. It was a murder mystery detective short film about a murder that took place in an elevator. And I had shot the script around, and it actually ended up being produced by a production company in Atlanta, Georgia. They produced it, and then they came to me afterwards, and they said it got such a really good reception and great feedback that they wanted to turn it into a television series. And would I write the next 3 episodes? And I did that, and I actually ended up directing a couple of them as well. So I was involved in that. It became a television series known as Atlanta Homicide, and it aired on the Dish Network for about 5 seasons. And that was sort of the springboard for me to then start my own production company. And over the course of 4 years, I produced a number of films, commercials, documentaries. And a lot of them went to various film festivals and had a pretty good distribution and a really great exposure. And it was an amazing time.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that might be, not just actors, but people that might have written scripts and maybe written books or anything. It's got to be extremely difficult to get anybody's attention and say, hey, I wrote this great play. Will you mind giving me money to produce it? That's got to be a hard sell. How did you even begin to approach trying to get anybody to pick that up?
Well, it was really just tenacity and networking. At the time, I knew absolutely nobody in the industry at all, except for one person. I had been to a trade show, and I met somebody who worked for Pixar. Now, he was obviously not in any capacity to be making decisions about what scripts to buy. But I went to him and I said, "Hey, listen, you're literally the only person in the industry that I know." And he said, "Well, I can't help you, but talk to this guy in New York City." So I talked to the guy in New York City. He said, "I can't help you. Talk to this guy in Toronto." So I talked to the guy in Toronto. He said, "I can't help you, but maybe this production company down in Atlanta." So it was just referral and networking and relentless pursuit.
It's kind of funny how no matter what you're doing, a lot of times success always comes down to perseverance. It just seems to be, you got to recognize the world's a bunch of dominoes. You got to keep knocking them down. You can't just give up. That's how it always seems to be. But you know what? It's amazing. And, one of the things that I'm so happy about, like Riddlesbrood does shows all around New Jersey, New York, Delaware, PA. Sometimes we've done some faraway ones in Texas and South Carolina. But you know what? One of the things that we've always had a trouble with is really far away shows. They're great. Sometimes people call us, but we often have to turn it down because the travel costs make everything cost prohibitive. It's like, unless they're willing to pay a fortune, we really, can't do it, except for in those rare cases where somebody's got deep pockets. But luckily, what you've been able to put together has been something that's really been a huge help. Why don't you take a minute and just tell our audience a little bit about, this new cluster kind of format where we're putting together a trip?
Yeah, so Riddlesbrood is going to be going on a trip. We are going to be in Las Vegas the week of June 15th. We have been hired to perform in Las Vegas. We will be performing, as of right now, we are booked for 5 shows. We are expecting at least 3 more to be booked the week of June 15th in Las Vegas.
Oh, that's just amazing. That's just amazing because it's very difficult to line up all those types of events right in a row, because we've tried to put together a series like that, a little circuit, and it's always very tricky to try to get these different venues to all coordinate with each other. Can you maybe for anybody that's like, how the hell can you do that? Can you maybe mention what strategies do you use to try to get people to kind of coordinate everything to fit in a week?
I think a lot of it is the approach. I had and we only started this initiative maybe in the last
a month or two.
Yeah, at most. I approached a number of venues out there. My background, as I mentioned, is sales. So I average about 4 or 5 trips a year to Las Vegas. I've been to Las Vegas about 69 times in the last 20 years.
You're not a gambling man, are you?
I am not, no. But I know a fair number of people out there, and I know a number of concierges and maitre d's and everything. So I started reaching out to folks. And again, it was networking. I knew that the maitre d' of the Bellagio was not going to hire us for a show.
Right.
But he knew a lot of the restaurants and I mean, Vegas is a small town. Mm-hmm. And I started having conversations with people, and the one thing that Vegas does not have, they have a lot of acts and they have a lot of shows, but they do not have a lot of murder mystery performances. So it really worked to our advantage because there was a need and we were able to fill it.
Well, that's what I thought would be a really great selling angle for us with Vegas, because I was out there once or twice myself years ago, and I saw Cirque du Soleil, and they always had these big acts. All the casinos would have these huge, big, flashy acts to try to draw people like a magnet, which makes a lot of sense, but there's probably very little entertainment on the mid-scale or the small scale. So if you're a hotel and you have your own restaurant, or if you're a casino and you got a couple of restaurants attached, you're not going to hire some big celebrity to come in there and do that. So that's where I thought, boy, we could really be a great fill-in for niches like that. What kind of responses have you gotten when you've talked to some of these places and say, hey, listen, here's our shows. We got some murder mysteries. Here's our different themes. How do they react to that?
Well, a lot of people have reacted very, very positively. A lot of the venues At least two of the venues have booked us for both a lunch and a dinner show on the same day. And at least two of them have said, if this goes well, will you guys come back out again?
Amazing.
And we haven't even been there yet.
Yeah, I mean, that's amazing. So obviously when we get out there, we got to knock the ball out of the park, which I'm sure we do because we always do. We just got done our huge Valentine's Day weekend where we had like 6 or 7 shows. It was, doubles and triples and going crazy. And everybody loved it. Everybody loved it. And there's nothing better for me to wake up in the morning and get an email from several venues talking about, how happy they are with the entertainment. But what you're doing is amazing. It's going to be great. And I think you even said that we may have some other trips, maybe to Orlando. What other places were you thinking?
Yeah, so the plan is that we're going to target probably 3 road trips or series per year. So our next target right now is probably in the fall. We're going to try to do a series of shows in Orlando, and then we're targeting next year for Chicago and San Francisco.
I'll tell you what, the sky's the limit. But you know what? When you're thinking, though, if you're just a 21-year-old actor, and you're thinking, you know what, man, that sounds cool. I'd really like to get involved and be involved in, doing some shows and get up there and telling jokes and, getting some time in front of an audience. They're probably thinking, it's probably impossible. It's probably, who's going to hire me? But that's not really the case. I mean, why don't you tell a little bit about how you first got involved with Riddlesbrood and, how it went from being an outsider to kind of getting on the inside. It wasn't really that hard at all.
No, it was not that hard at all. I had done murder mystery dinner theater maybe 20 years ago, and I really enjoyed that experience. So I've been, the past 20 years, I've really done more behind the camera work when I was involved in the TV series either as a writer or as director or as an executive producer. And I really hadn't had the, I decided I was going to jump back into acting because I had recently had some really good experiences with another group in Charleston. This was an improv group, and I decided I was going to jump back into acting. My wife encouraged me, and she said, "Why don't you see if you can find a group in or near South Jersey?" So I started researching, and as it turned out, I found this group named Riddlesbrood, and they were holding auditions the next day for their main stage production.
That's right.
And so I reached out and I said, hey, I can't be in the main stage production because I'm going to be in Scotland, but I would love to do the murder mystery shows. And you said come to the audition, and I came to the audition. I think I read with a couple of individuals who are sitting here today, and I said, hey, I'll jump right in. I said I'm flexible, so just start filling up my calendar.
Well, it's nice to hear because, there's probably a lot of people that have regular jobs. They can't be working at a little dinner theater, or a little murder mystery company as their full-time thing. But you're a perfect example of somebody who, you have the real job. You do sales. You sell all kinds of different things. Actually, do you want to take a few moments to talk a little bit about your quote unquote big job that what the real sales does?
My experience in technology has always been as business development. I've worked for a number of different technology companies, and basically, a lot of what I do is going to trade shows and networking and shaking hands, and then converting those meetings into deals for whatever technology solution is being promoted or whatever the latest, greatest is that there's a need for.
Isn't it funny how acting and sales kind of link together like a puzzle pieces, In
order to be a salesman, you have to be a good actor.
You have to be good with empathy, and you have to be good with, reading the room, and you got to be able to see what their facial expressions are like. Is that, what do they want? What are they trying to do? That's how it worked for me too. Like I was always a salesperson besides the run of the theater. I worked as a loan officer for a mortgage company for many years, a real estate agent. I sold pool tables, all kinds of different things. And it always was a great help. Like they would always love me because it's like, oh yeah, you're great with people. So if you're the kind of person out there and you're looking for something to do, you like acting, sales is always a great opportunity. And the sky's the limit. If you can sell, you can make more money than people that can't, and make more money than people that are just sitting at a desk.
Yeah, it's very funny because when I originally got my bachelor's degree, I wanted to go into journalism, and that was in the late '90s, back when newspapers and radio stations and things actually
they weren't dead yet.
They weren't dead yet. So I started down the path of journalism, and I just realized it wasn't for me. So my very first real job was working for a company that produced the Bill Moyers VHS public broadcasting tapes, and I was basically in a call center answering the phones when schools and other K-12 facilities would call in and say, we need an order for this tape and this tape. And I met the two salespeople, the two outside salespeople who were there. And I had a couple of lunches with them, and the first thing that they told me was, you can get paid to travel. I said, somebody's actually going to pay me to travel? Sign me up. And I've been doing sales ever since.
Yeah. I mean, it has a lot of high points. I mean, it could be a little tough, no doubt about it. It could be tough if you have a string of time where you're not getting any closings, and it's a little tough, but you can always power through that. I know that one of the things that I've always kind of enjoyed about sales is just getting to know a bunch of people, because you never know what doors can open. A lot of people view concepts like nepotism as a bad, evil thing. It's against meritocracy, and there's truth to that. However, in this industry, who you know is so important, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's always like an old boys network kind of thing, but it definitely means the more people in your Rolodex, I don't think anybody uses Rolodexes anymore, but as many people that you have in your phone or contacts that you have, you're really going to be able to pick up new gigs or pick up new opportunities. So if you're kind of a loner, you're cutting off a lot of possible avenues of success, because you're not going to have as many of those opportunities fall in your lap. So it's great to not burn bridges and know as many people as you can, because there's plenty of actors that work with us that have worked for other murder mystery companies and work for other theaters and do all kinds of different things, and they just kind of make the rounds. So it's really good to know actors, because they'll probably get you your next gig. Yeah,
and I would also say, some people, they view the term sales or salesperson as something that's very ugly and nasty, like a used car salesman. A used car salesman and a business-to-business corporate business development executive are two very, very completely different animals. And my approach, and the approaches are all different. There are some people who are very passive. There are some people who are very aggressive. I tend to land in the middle. I'm very persistent. I'm very tenacious. And usually, I would say 8 times out of 10, people say, thank you, Todd, for being so persistent. We really appreciate all of the efforts. Every once in a while, they say go away, and that's fine. But they usually don't say go away. They say something else, but that's fine. But usually, people really appreciate the attention that they're getting, because at the end of the day, being in business development is solving a need or fixing a pain point or providing something that doesn't currently exist.
Right. Well, I mean, I've always, I've always enjoyed sales a lot of times, because I kind of always like the kind of intellectual sword fight aspect of it, because there is a little bit of a feeling of conquest, when you're walking in and you're talking to somebody. If you can kind of persuade them that what you're selling is really worth it to them, and they're going to actually open up their wallet and give you some money, you've really kind of proven that you could be that persuasive. So I have always enjoyed sinking my teeth into that kind of challenge. Of course, always in an ethical way. I would never want to, even to this day, when we get calls from a gig that I know, we're not going to really be the best fit, I usually try to dissuade them, unless they're just like beat me up in the head, and I'll be like, okay, fine, we'll book it. But, for the most part, I really try to, because we don't want anybody to, at the end of the show, say they didn't love it, And if I already can predict that, I don't want to lead someone down there. But 90% of the time, I know that what I'm offering them is something that's going to be make their clients happy. It's going to make them happy. It's going to give them more attention. They're going to get more social media clicks. So I know that I'm selling something valuable that they're going to love. They just don't know it yet. And I have to kind of cast that spell, and I have to enchant them and get them to understand that. So, that's always been my kind of view of sales, a little bit more of a magical kind of feel to it.
Yeah, and I love the fact that you use the word value, because that is really what it is the value. I mean, something is only worth as much as people are willing to pay. So if they say we value at X, but somebody else says, well, I value at 2X.
Right.
So where is the value? What the value is what you bring to them, and how much that represents to them an improvement, or how much the investment is going to really enhance their experience, or their customers' experience, or their clients' experience, and just make it better for them.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing that you realize too is that there's not really kind of like an equality in different deals too, because just like if you're a band, that you're not going to get as much money on a Saturday night in a bar as you would if you were doing a wedding gig. We all know that certain opportunities, certain times, certain events can command a higher price tag than others. And I've seen a lot of people try to create this standard where, well, if I charge X, that means I charge X always in every circumstance. And that's not really the best way to go about it. You got to make sure that you can sense the opportunity of the situation and try to balance everything together, which is very important when you're trying to get as many gigs, as much business as possible. You got to look under every rock. You can't just say one shoe fits every foot. You got to be able to say, well, I got to tweak my product to fit here, and then I'm going to tweak it again to fit over here. That's how you really can get yourself doing, instead of one show a month, 20 shows a month.
Yeah, very true. And I think that's where my experience in solution selling really comes into play, because like you said, we're not just selling a product in a box. We're not just three people who are going to stand up there on stage and you're going to see a juggling act and something like this. It's really a solution that can be, it's a customizable solution. Now, we can offer different themes. We can offer variations on pretty much anything. It can be customized. It's funny. I was talking to one of the individuals out in Vegas, and he was in the business world as well, and he said to me, "Hey, what would be really cool is, can you guys rename a character as one of our competitors' CEOs? Can that be the character that dies?" I said, "Absolutely, sure, why not?"
Yeah. Hey, it's all for fun. I mean, and you mentioned something that I think I want to circle around on, and the idea of customization. That's really been a hallmark of how we can survive in a difficult market, especially after 2008. The crisis there. A lot of restaurants went out of business, and a lot of things went south, and we were able to survive by being able to customize our events. So we had a scalable type of product. So we could either do a small murder mystery for 60 people, a bigger one for 100 people, and one for 300 people. And it's the same show, but it can scale like an accordion up and down. And that really was attractive to a lot of people who weren't sure if they were going to get, 50 people. What if they got only 25? We don't want them to cancel, because all they're going to do if they cancel is just annoy the few people that were attracted to their email or looked on their social media, made a reservation, and had a plan to go out and have a nice date night, and now they got canceled. So we made our shows scalable so that no matter what, the client doesn't have to take as much risk, but they don't have to cancel. They can make sure that their clients are happy.
Absolutely. Yeah. And at the end of the day, that's really what it is that they have a positive experience and that they want to tell their friends about it.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, I'm really, really, really excited about the Vegas trip. That's going to be amazing. Actually, do you know some of I think we already have a couple booked, right? If anybody's willing to come out to Vegas, it's a short flight, right?
We do.
Maybe a long bike ride.
Yeah, we have a couple of venues that I can mention. There's a couple that I can't mention yet, but I can tell you, like I said, we're going to be there the week of June 15th. On June the 16th, we are going to be doing both a lunch and a dinner show at the Craft House Brewery. And on June 18th, a lunch and a dinner show at the Stakeout Bar and Grill. So those two I can tell you about. We will probably have others that we can announce as it gets closer. And as soon as we have that information, we will be able to share it.
That's great. That's great. Obviously, we're going to put out more information that gets closer. It's still a couple months away. But yeah, that's very, very exciting. And, just to put this out there, I know we were talking about Orlando. I mean, what do you think would be so amazing in Orlando? I mean, do you really think, what will be some cool venues that you think might work for us out there?
Well, I mean, there's a number of places. The great thing about Orlando is there's just everybody wants to do something different. I mean, I've been to Orlando as a salesperson taking a client out to dinner, and I've been to Orlando as a parent taking my kids to a theme park. So basically, whenever I build a trip, I want to customize it to. Getting back to customization, I want to customize it to my audience. And I know that Orlando is really a hot spot for business people, and to be able to take clients to something that is unique and different, and an interactive murder mystery experience that that's funny, and it's something that they're going to remember. It's the originality.
Yeah.
I think that we can bring to the table.
Well, it sounds like an exciting thing. It's going to be really awesome to see some of these things come to fruition. And I'm excited. I mean, it's going to be great. And not only that, we also have a very big spring ahead of us. We got a lot of great gigs coming up. If anybody's in the Wildwood area, we've been doing a lot of things over at the Mud Hen in Wildwood. They have us there at least once a month. It's a lot of fun. I think they could seat up to like 125. So there's plenty of room for anybody who wants to go out and do a date night. St. Patty's Day is coming up next month, so we have quite a few. We have an Irish-themed murder mystery. That's one of my favorite. It's called The Four-Leaf Killer. It even features a leprechaun, and you're not going to see them around too much unless you come to see one of Riddlesbrood's fantastic murder mysteries in February. But in the meantime, folks, we hope everybody had a wonderful time. Thank you, Todd, for coming on today. It was a pleasure.
Oh, thank you so much.
And we hope to hear from you guys. We'll see everybody next month for our next amazing podcast. Thank you.